He's been described as the rave of the moment, the possible dark horse in this race. Opinion polls have even put him ahead of other candidates in the election. I'm talking about none other than the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. But seeing that we're still 138 days to the election, it looks like a marathon and not a sprint. So for the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, for his running mate, Dati Baba Ahmed, what is the game plan? We're joined tonight on the program by the Director General of the Obi Dati Campaign Council, former media aide to former presidents Goodluck Jonathan, Olusegun Obasanjo. Dr. Doyin Okupe is our guest. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you, Dr. Okupe, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Well, good evening. I'm sure you must have seen the APC's march in Lagos today. It's been described as a 5 million man march, and that's just coming a week after your party staged its own. And it looks like a battle of who can pull the most crowd, as I said earlier on. Does your party feel intimidated seeing the crowd that was pulled by the APC in Lagos, a major stronghold today?
Well, you can see that I find it quite entertaining. One of the greatest things that has happened in this dispensation is that a 4-month-old party, I mean, is now so much in leadership that parties that have existed for 20 years or more are playing a catch-up game, and it's still not being done very well. I want to congratulate the APC for the effort that was made today. Really, what you saw was not a Lagos rally. We are a very sophisticated group, a group made up of, being driven and powered by youth. We have taken that tape to we have done a forensic study of the tape of the rally in our laboratories. And we found out that I personally can recognize about 4 or 5 people from my federal constituency. Others can recognize people from Oyo, Osun, etc. So really what you saw this morning was a Southwest rally, not really a Lagos rally. But even if you give it as a Lagos rally, it is just fairly comparable to what happened in First Act Town. You will recall that the October 1 Labour Party rally, the Obedient rally, simultaneously took place in an unprecedented manner with a crowd that is also unprecedented and organic. In Lekki, in First Act, in Surulere, in 4 different locations, and you have them on tape. Go and check, put them side by side. What you saw in Lagos today was nothing compared to any one of them, or maybe at best is at par with anyone. So what APC has been able to do after having seen the Labour Party movement do something is still just about a quarter of what we did. It's encouraging, and it shows that they're catching up. But besides that also, if you look at that's why I told you, we did an organic study. I mean, we did a forensic study of the tape. Virtually 60–70% of those who took part were people that were members of an institution called NURWT, the constituency of the organizer of the rally. But the rally of Labour is Obedient is a natural human response to what is going on in the society, and it is propelled. You could see it. It was propelled by dynamic youths who are dedicated, committed, not people who are just generally laughing and joking. These are very serious-minded young people who are determined to take their country, back.
Well, Dr. Okupe, you know the challenge.
It was just an attempt.
Right. The challenge with these claims from the APC, the Labour Party.
It's a catch-up game.
Right. If you can hear me, the challenge usually is being empirical, being scientific. I mean, you said yours was a 1 million man march. Was it 2 million? The APC said it's a 5 million man march. But really, nobody has done a head count. Some will put the figures at just a few thousand. So
forget
really,
about the figures.
What figure would you put to your own rally to begin with?
What you saw today from Lagos is perhaps comparable to the list of the outings we had in Lagos on the October 1. Maybe you can compare it to Surulere or to Festac Town, but certainly you cannot compare it to Lekki. But we had, rallies in 4 simultaneous places. This is just one street show, across Lagos. Yep. Please, you will be joining in the deception if you try to compare what has happened today to what happened. Forget about numbers.
I mean, facts and numbers, they say, Dr. Okupe, don't lie. And it's important to put this in proper perspective. You said that you have a laboratory, you've done some sort of, is it forensic analysis? So certainly you should be able to put a figure such that you can say, well, we had 10,000, 1 million, and then naturally she'll trounce the figures from the others. So if you were to put a figure to the last rally you had in Lagos altogether, what will it be?
I'm a sensible man and I'm a logical man. If I put a figure, it is my word against yours. So it is ridiculous. There's no need to put a figure. You saw it yourself. People saw it themselves. We've seen what has happened in Lagos. Let us not just talk about the volume of people, the stream of flow of people that we saw in Lagos today. It was just comparable to what we saw in either Surulere or Festac, which is just one of the 4 locations that that the Labour Party did run on October 1. That is a fact.
Well, at the end of the day, right, facts really are controvertible. I mean, from your point of view, you've said it's you say, I say. So if you could put a figure to it, the other parties will put a figure to it. But perhaps we can move on from that, because at the end of the day, the INEC will not be counting the number of people who have trooped out for the rallies and all of that. And that brings me to that question. Just in the whole scheme of things, ahead of the elections, what does that really do? The fact that you had crowd, the APC will say, we had millions marching for us. What is the import really on ground on election day proper in terms of the voting that will happen on that day?
You see, this is the danger when you play follow. When you try to follow people and you don't know their intentions or what they plan to achieve. We were not going on a rally to show that, we have followership. The young people who were on rallies for the obedient movement were out to prove a point that they do not approve of what is going on in the country and that they want to take their country back. They want to take their destiny in their hands. Now, if there are 10, if there are 20, if there are 1 million, nobody started, nobody was worried about that. But you see, when people saw them, they said, this is a 1 million man march, this is a 2 million man march, and then quickly, our competitors also following that trend say they want to do a 10 million man march. Whether it is 10 million, whether it is 5 million, it's a catch-up game. And, a party that is supposed to have structures, a party that is supposed to have been in existence for 20-something years, now trying to compete ineffectively with a structureless party. Please, next question.
Well, I'm sure we'll get a lot of this in the coming days. I mean, it's a political season, but we need to also focus on the issues. Yes, these issues are important, but I mean, for the people out there who are trying to make a decision, and they're looking at different things. Yes, the crowd might sway them here or there, but what's happening to the food on their table, the security around the environment, the money in their pockets. I mean, their life expectation and all of that is also quite important for them. And just before I get to that, we're due for a break in just about a minute. And I'd like you to quickly touch on this before we go on that break in just less than a minute. The talks about violence on your supporters or other supporters. And I'd like to know, what have you been able to gather? Because we've seen images on social media talking about violence, people being attacked in your camp. What do you have, and what is being done about that?
Well, it's a pity that people want to turn us into whipping boys just because we want to, want to exercise, or our people want to exercise their civic rights. I am praying, and we are all praying, that God will minister into the hearts of these people who are engaged in nefarious activities. Politics should not be, in 2023, after so many years of our independence, we should be able to run an election without violence. I watched the American election. There was no police on the streets. There was not to talk of soldiers. And until we get to that stage, then, we really cannot be proud of our democracy. But luckily, you saw that we are the whipping boys. It is our people that were being beaten up. And one of our boys was nearly, incinerated, and it was just the intervention of a military passerby officer who saved his life. And the election is still so far. I want to seize this medium, to use this medium to appeal, not to APC or PDP, to all of us politicians. Let us contest fairly. Let us campaign very well. Let us remove violence. And, our legislators must, once and for all, break the trend, make a law to seriously sanction anybody that is caught, with an act of thuggery during electioneering or voting.
We were talking about the rallies and all of that, but at the heart of it, I think the message a lot of people will be waiting to hear is the manifesto of your candidate. And at this very, very important time, is that out already? Is it available for people to be able to look through?
We have a special day that we have set aside next week for the launching or unveiling of the manifesto. It will be done sometimes next week.
What will be at the core of this manifesto? I think now a lot of Nigerians are used to the usual promises. And I mean, your party has said it is coming to change the old order. So what will be different with this manifesto? Perhaps something simple, something a lot of people can hold on to and just ride with?
A whole lot of things will be different. A whole lot of things will show us clearly as coming with something new. Everybody comes up with statements about highfalutin things that they do not intend to achieve. This our manifesto is going to address exactly what we intend to do, and to some extent, how we will do it. And to some extent, I've said, it will clearly lay out in simple language that everybody can follow. And we also intend to translate it, because it's not a voluminous thing. We're going to translate it into languages that Nigerians can readily identify with. But the theme of the manifesto, the theme of our program is moving Nigeria from consumption to production. All that entails is what that manifesto is going to say.
Right. So tell us now, your candidate has been outside the country for some time now. Where is he today, and what is his engagement like?
I think he's rounding up most of his programs abroad. I've done a couple of days in the United States. He visited Harvard University. He's also been, he's also gone across to the UK. I believe he has rounded up his program and should be on his way home anytime from now. You probably wonder, people have also asked me, why is he traveling? It's important that we visit our diaspora citizens. It is a big shame that they are not allowed to vote. But perhaps if many Nigerians recognize the fact that these diaspora people are those who are actually maintaining our economy and actually also reducing the ravaging effect of poverty on our nation. Last year, the diaspora community remitted some $20 billion, to Nigeria, which was actually a shortfall. It had gone up as high as $25 billion, which is almost very, very close to what, after you have done all the deductions from the oil majors, very, very close to what we get from oil. That's a wonderful thing. And any community that does that should be a recognized stakeholder in our system. This is why we believe it is important for us to talk to them so that and not just that, many nations in this world have prospered and have moved forward by relying and utilizing the knowledge and ability and capability and expertise that the diaspora community have garnered over the years. Our presidential candidate needed to familiarize himself, to make himself and to make his mission clear, and to ask for the support of the diaspora community, so that when he eventually gets into government, these same people can come down and help us to develop our nation.
Well, Dr. Okupe, it's also been said that your candidate is doing these rounds to get financial support from the diaspora. So just how significant financial support, how much of financial support has it been getting from the diaspora, since you say they, in fact, remit a lot of funds into the country?
I am the Director General of this campaign organization. I'm also a Christian. I will not lie to you. You know, he went about about 4 weeks or 6 weeks ago, and he came back. We didn't we didn't collect any money. It was not that we are against or, we have abhorrence to raising money, through Nigerians in the diaspora, but that was not the intention. That was not the primary intention. The primary intention is for the candidate to sell himself to some of the major stakeholders in our communities who have a lot of influence back home on the Nigerian community. That was the main, and we have achieved that. There's no other aspirant or candidate that has done anything close to that, because they really have nothing to sell. And besides, the diaspora community is a highly sophisticated and educated society. You have to know what you want to say. You have to know more than them. You have to be able to deliver, what they want to hear. I don't, of all the three major candidates, I doubt whether there is any other person who can compete on that platform convincingly as Peter Obi. It doesn't exist.
Well, your candidate has had a very interesting political journey, PDP, APGA, now the Labour Party. And just a few days ago, his predecessor in Anambra State made some statements, in fact, saying that he essentially taught him by proxy what he did as governor. I'd like you to listen to this and get your response in a moment.
You're proud of what Peter Obi continued when you left?
Yes, he was building on my foundation, even though he disagreed with me on infrastructure. So for the first tenure, he didn't do infrastructure. He didn't do, but he realized that it was a grievous mistake when we met in the ballot in 2010, and when we met in the senatorial election for our senatorial district.
If you had to rate them, you think Bola Tinubu performed better than Peter Obi when they were governors?
I'm not an analyst in that respect.
But you sat in that seat before.
You see people doing polls, gerrymandered polls, and using statistics and samples that don't reflect whole. So I don't want to get into that kind of analysis.
There have been different analyses of the minister's statements and during that conversation with our political editor, Doyin Okupe. But what do you have to say about him following in the footsteps of his predecessor and all of that?
I think, Governor Ngige, former Governor Ngige is a very good friend, and he's a medical colleague like myself. I have a lot of respect for him. But that was just personal aggrandizement, the kind of thing that old people do when they see younger people performing, say, oh, these are things we have done, in our time. It's not important. It's not, let's talk about real issues. That's not an issue. That's nothing, the man who came after me is following in my footsteps. Good news. Please, that's not a very serious matter.
Well, it's important to at least get your response to that. As we wind down in 30 seconds, Nigerians have been asked not to put their trust in any candidate because, as I say, man can ultimately fail. A lot of people stake their lives on the current government, and those people say they are disappointed massively. Can these people trust your candidate?
On a lighter note, the Yoruba people say that if you close your eyes because bad people are passing, when good people are passing, your eyes will remain closed. What happened in the past was a disaster, an error, regrettable. But this one, we can see there's no basis for comparison. This coming election has to do with integrity, with character, with capability. with competence and with commitment. All these are fully resident in the person of Peter Obi. You couldn't say that much, of the other candidate at that time. This is seeing and believing. For a fact, it is high. And then not only that, we have something to go back on. The one in 2015 and 2019 was just based on, we were building skyscrapers on nothing. But here, Peter Obi has a solid foundation in Anambra State.
Well, Dr. Okupe.
Apart from that, his personality shows a frugal person, a very prudent man, a man that even in his own life.
Right, Dr. Okupe, we have to run now. When I started the program, I said time is of the essence. Pardon me.
You are not going to be wrong. God bless you.
Okay, Dr. Okupe, we have to anchor at this point, but time is of the essence. 138 days. We have some time to do this in the future, but I'd like to thank you so much for your time in the meantime. We've been speaking with Dr. Doyin Okupe, who is the Director General of Obidate Campaign Council, joining us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Well, that's been our package, everyone. It's a very interesting period, so stay with Channels Television for the latest in political news. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Good night.